Okay, I'm not bothering with the countdown. Sorry, we had a bit of an issue with the stream there, but it's now all fixed. So I'm scrapping the usual intro and just to save time and going straight in. Thank you, Angela, for tuning in. Also, thank you to James Allen for tuning in, one of my regulars. Good to see you there. I've got a fantastic guest on who I just gave like the most amazing intro ever. Now I've got to remember it again. Howard Ford is an independent British film director who has been a juggernaut since he first came on my radar. He's been making at least one feature film every year since I've known him, sometimes two. Incredibly clever with the marketing, picking his choices and getting them distributed. Also, he's a bit of a one-man army. We're going to talk to him about all of that and more. So we're going to quickly repeat the first bit of the interview that we did when we thought we were live and we were not, because it went down. I've no idea why. But without further ado, here he is, Howard Ford. Second take, action.
Yeah, take two. You know what? This is how it is, though. If it goes wrong, you have to do it again. We were having a lovely chat, ladies and gentlemen, and but we didn't realise we were talking to nobody there. So we were talking about the disasters of the dead, actually, and I was like, "It's the curse of that movie, The Dead. Everything that can go wrong does, so you have to adapt." Anyway, thank you for the lovely intro, and it's great to be here, Nance.
All right, well, let's do a quick recap of what we did just discuss. So you were telling me, because I was talking about you'd done a huge number of commercials and videos, music videos, which is often a route for many directors to then end up doing feature films. But actually, you kind of went slightly backwards on that. You did a feature film when you were very young.
I did, yes, and I started making short films from the age of 13. So I was started making short movies at 13 on Super 8 film. You know, at that stage it was like friends as actors, and if we could get a professional actor, great. It sort of built up from there. First feature film at 21, which was Mainline Ron. But I've done like 300 probably about 300 TV commercials, maybe a little bit more. There it is, Mainline Ron. I haven't looked at that for ages, but.
So yeah. How did Hugo Speer come about? I mean, this is not long after the Full Monty.
He was in the Full Monty, wasn't he? And
yeah, I think that was 92. The Full Monty.
Would you believe that I actually saw Hugo first in like a Midsummer Murders type thing. So he was in one of these programs. I think it was Midsummer Murders. And I first saw him and I thought, oh, that guy looks really good. You're always keeping an eye out for people. And then we were sent back in those days, rather than people would literally post their CVs with their headshots and all that. And if you advertise for a film in PCR, as it was at the time, you get like a sack full of mail and it would come through. So he was one of the ones.
Production, casting, review, yeah. And you'd get literally hundreds of CVs and headshots.
Yeah. Crazy, and then people would send you videotapes and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, you wouldn't believe what you get with those. But look, and Hugo was great, and he was really, really, really good, and really good to work with. And that film, it was like, to me, that was like a film school for me, because I didn't go to film school. I'm all sort of self-taught. My brother and I just went out and did it. Something I believe in. Just go and do it. Get it wrong, and then you'll get it right, or a bit more right next time. So yeah, I mean. Mainline Ron, and I'm not sure, to be fair, I'm not sure it deserves 6.4 on IMDb. As I say, it's probably my mum must have given it a 7, but
yeah. possibly.
But yeah. So look, it's got its good points about it. But there are things I look at that film now and I go, oh, and I haven't looked at it for a while. That each time you do these things, these things are there forever, but you change as a person, and then hopefully you get better. And more experienced and learn by your mistakes. So I'd say there's a lot of mistakes in that, and things I'd do differently. But look, it was great to get a feature film in the can and go through the whole process of taking it to market and selling it and realizing the pitfalls of selling movies. So yeah, that's the first of 10 feature films that I've done. Maybe I kind of lost count of the commercials, 300 odd, anything from sort of Guinness mobile phones to banks to sort of shampoo adverts, and one for the Ministry of Sound, things like that, stuff like that. Commercials is the bread and butter, if I'm honest. Movies is a crazy roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean, directing is all about like learning from your mistakes, and it's 90% preparation and planning, and 10% then problem solving the things that you can't predict that are going to go wrong on the day. And I mean, you were telling me earlier, I think would this be your second feature, The Dead?
Well, you're close. It's the third, but because I did Distant Shadow after that, and then The Dead. Yeah, so that's what you're seeing now. Is that's in the Sahara Desert. That's 35mm shot on 35mm film. That is a guy with real polio and his leg bent backwards. He had such a great time playing a zombie that it took us a day and a half to get the smile off his face. So we could actually get a shot in the can because he could feed his family from the money we were paying. There, crazy business that. We went out to Burkina Faso. That's Ghana. So we shot on the coast of Ghana, a place I really love, Ghana, and I've been back there. And I'm going back to Africa in June to do some TV commercials. So. We just went out. I like taking audiences on a bit of a journey with a film if I can.
Sure.
Because here we are. We're in a room, right, with walls and a street that we know what it looks like. And I think if you're just taking people there, I think it's kind of boring. I think we owe it to the audience to just take them somewhere a bit different. And hey, with The Dead, you can go on a journey movie across Africa with zombies.
Well, if you shoot on location somewhere like that, like when we went over to Greece to shoot The Journey, you get a fantastic location and kind of all your sets for free, really.
You do, and a lot of people mistake. This is a funny thing. I feel a lot of the best filmmaking is by the design of the film. If you stand back and look at the component parts, and you don't start going, yeah, well, Steve's going to say to George this, and then Sandra's going to do this, and then that. I think, hang on, let's just go further back than that. Let's look at the kind of ingredients of it. What are people actually going to get? What are they actually going to feel? And how can you enhance that? And I think the location is such a huge choice. And some people mistake cinematography, say it can be great cinematography. And that might, it's great cinematography right there. But, but also it's the location as well. It's the location choice, If there was a wall behind that, it wouldn't look beautiful because you couldn't see the sun. Sometimes it's simple as that. And the landscape, like with the new film Escape, we're on an island. We'll get to that. I know, but I think I owe it to the audience. They're going to take time to watch your film. Just give them something a little bit different if you can.
That's a great poster. I really like that.
I love that one. That is nothing to do with me. I wish I could take credit for coming up with that idea. Absolutely nothing to do with me. And I think that is the most creative poster, perhaps for all of our films in a way. The whole idea of that was the US theatrical release poster. So we got 200 screen theatrical release in America before it came out. That's the UK DVD cover, I believe. That is a thing I've never seen before in my life.
That's got to be the Japanese.
Is it? Right.
Poster. They always do quite interesting alternative artworks, I've noticed.
Yeah, I've never actually seen that one. Oh my God, I've never seen that one either. Where are you getting these from?
These are actually all up on IMDb, so somebody put them up there.
Yeah, I don't dare look at IMDb. It's depressing.
Yeah, I know it can be.
I wasted an hour and a half of my life, and I can't get it.
Yeah,
what? I nearly died doing that. Don't do that.
Yeah, you can get drawn into all that, which is
it's not worth it. That
not
stuff
healthy.
is a load of rubbish because it's nice to get some feedback. Some feedback is helpful, but unfortunately, no matter what you do with the movie, there's always day one of IMDb. There's always people who come on and go, "This is the worst film ever made," and it might be, but you haven't seen my previous one.
I think I'm struggling to remember exactly when this was, but I have a vague recollection of briefly working with a crew member on a movie who was having a pop at your Undead film, and when I was talking to this person, I actually started to realize that this person was like just a really kind of bitter, awful, nasty piece of work. And I said to the other producer on the project, I said, you don't want to work with this guy, And then funnily enough, the day after that, he tried to get me to fire that producer, not realizing how far back our friendship went.
Right.
So I don't know who it was, but it was. They said that they got into an argument with you on social media, and that must have been back in the days when it was just starting and before we all realised what a waste of time that was.
Yeah, probably. Look, lots of. I have to say, in some ways, it's great when people take a pop at you. Not that I like it personally. It means that you're moving and shaking. You're doing something. You're not just sat in the room talking about it or whatever. You're actually doing something, and then someone sees something, and they go, "Oh, do you know what? That's up there. I'll take a bit of a pop at that." And you know, I'm my own worst critic anyway. So, but the weird thing was with The Dead, before the film came out, there was, you know, we'd shot the movie. It's one white guy in Africa with a load of zombies. Angela said, "Love the Dead and Dead 2 India."
Yeah.
Yes,
thanks very much, Angela, for tuning in.
This movie in Africa. It's clearly racist because you've got a white man and he's shooting black people in the head. Whoa! Is that, if that's how you're going to look at it, we've got no chance. And so there was before people saw the movie, these arguments happened before the movie was out, and there was a debate about it. And to be honest, I think these people who were debating it, you know, it all added to the success of the film in a funny old way. And you know, I sort of feel for people who do need to come out and put negativity out there. I think, you know, something's happened to them to put them in that place, and I wish them better times.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with that more. Right, I'm gonna give you a solo layout there for a second, and I'm gonna hit you with some quick fire questions here. Try not to overthink about them, just so we can get to know Howard Ford, the man, a little bit better. What was the first film you remember seeing at the cinema?
Moonraker.
Oh, yeah. Wow! What a
it's Moonraker. And I watched it 3 times. It was one of the films that got me wanting to make a movie.
Spy Who Loved Me was my first Bond film, and that also got me. It was one of the films that influenced me becoming a filmmaker. Last film you saw at the cinema?
The last film I saw at the cinema. Oh my god, that's bad, isn't it? I've forgotten. Is it Everything Everywhere All at Once?
That was pretty recent.
Yeah.
Well, how did you find that film out of interest?
Well, look, I was incredibly impressed because again, it's a bit of a Marmite film, isn't it? But I know how hard films are to make. So I saw some people again knocking that. There's a lot of people who thought it was stupid and everything else. I was like, this is incredibly impressive technically. You know, what is going into this? This is a huge display of incredible technical ability. So I was really impressed by it. I thought it was great. But it then had a few bits that I thought, I'm not sure they need to go this far now. Now they're going down a road, and I think it's too much. So I think
I know one of the bits to which you might be referring.
Yeah. Didn't they had a fight with some random rubber?
Yeah.
You know what? That's fun. You know, why not have a fight with a couple of sex toys? Perhaps we haven't seen that before. But then again, it was in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, wasn't it? But look, that's another thing. But and it had some things like that, and then the weird donut that kept coming up, and it had some weird stuff. But then it was absolutely beautiful, and it also I think it spoke about some really, really deeper meanings, universal meanings. But you can just take from it what you want. You can see those things, or you can go, that's stupid because of those other ingredients. You know what? You can't make a perfect film. You cannot please it.
Well, that's true, because a film's only perfect to some people. It's never perfect to everybody. Okay, continuing quickly. Which British actor or actress would you most like to work with that you haven't worked with yet? And I do know that you plug the careers of a lot of relative unknowns, but I'm talking about if you could cast a big name. Well, it doesn't have to be a big name, but somebody we all would know. Who would you? With?
I'd love to now work with cast Idris Elba. Do you know why? A, he's brilliant, but B, would you believe I turned down Idris Elba for a part in Mainline Ron? I can't believe that. It's so awful, isn't it? Isn't it funny? Because, you know, again, at the time, he'd just done the London's Burning and The Bill, and he's a brilliant actor. He had dreadlocks at the time.
I remember him in London's Burning.
Yeah, really? You remember that? That's amazing. Yeah. And he had dreadlocks. And I remember his agent at the time, I think he's long moved agents, was like, you know, he's got something special. We're like, no, you know, they were kind of right about that, weren't they? So, we didn't go with him in the end. And
same question, American actor or actress that you'd most like to work with?
Oh, weirdly, I'd really like to work with Bill Pullman. Is that weird?
I saw him on stage in the play All of Our Sons, and he was absolutely, with Sally Field, he was phenomenal.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, another amazing actor. These are instinctive answers that have just been, I think they've been been in my psyche for a while.
No, that's good. I want the first thing that comes into your head. Tell me a favorite film that you probably watch at least once a year, or certainly fairly regularly.
People are going to perhaps hate me for this. I really love the Titanic. I love the Titanic because, and I know a lot of people don't. I think James Cameron is an amazing director, but I find that film is so incredibly impressive with the grand scale of its visuals. But a lot of those films that are impressive with the grand scale of visuals and scope and all of those things, they are lacking in detail. That film is just so not lacking in detail. The small stuff, the tiny stuff, the lock that's holding him, and will the axe hit in the right place? It goes the tiny stuff and it goes the big stuff, and the little details of it. I find that film incredibly impressive. Nothing like the type of movies I make, but I just think that how the hell Cameron got through that, I really don't know.
I actually had one of the cast on the channel. God, now his name's gone out of my head. The guy who played Nick the Greek in Lock, Stock.
And, Stephen.
Yeah, you know him.
I know him. Yeah.
Lovely guy, really phenomenal actor.
I'm friends with him on Facebook, actually. And,
Well, and I watched Titanic again not that long ago, actually, and saw his scenes in it, and I was like, my God, I completely forgot he was in Titanic. That was the one thing I didn't ask him about on the interview.
Yeah.
Are you a big fan of the film A Night to Remember?
I like it, and I think it's but I'm not a huge. I know there are huge fans of certain movies, and I should mention things like, Rear Window, films like that. That also really, really I loved, and just I found took a normal setting and made it completely different. And that's another one I want to throw into the ring.
I mean, the answer to this next question could actually also be Titanic, but I'll be wanting a different answer. Name a film that you consider a guilty pleasure that you like watching now and then.
Yeah, Grown Ups is good. my boys like that, and it is actually funny. That's another film I just want to throw in there that I think is near perfect, and you didn't exactly ask me that question. The Sixth Sense. It's just, I
really like that movie, and it's funny because the guy who wrote it, I don't know if he directed it as well, but he's done
M. Night
several.
Shyamalan, wasn't it?
Right. How do you pronounce his surname?
M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know.
Saban.
Yeah, something.
Almost every film he's made since that, that film was so good. None of the others have ever exceeded it.
No, and I have to say, Unbreakable's pretty good. I think it's slightly.
I like Unbreakable. Unbreakable.
But it was a couple of notches short, wasn't it? And hey, how do you follow The Sixth Sense? I think directorially, as in knowing the work of a director, that each frame has to sort of tell its story, basically, its component part in the whole story, the breakdown of it, the stuff people shouldn't be interested in or shouldn't necessarily understand is even going on. But the way that is shot and the choices of the shots and the lenses and the way it is near perfect. It's as near perfect as it gets for the correct shots to tell the story. So I find that incredibly impressive.
Final question on our quick starters here. What would be a favorite television drama series that you watch? Could have been when you were younger, could have been more recently, that you thought, wow, that's an outstanding piece of work.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. I did love Breaking Bad because I was also impressed. Really well made. I thought the acting was brilliant. Yeah. And then I just thought, I'm so impressed that in this day and age, my not my cynical view, because my jaded view, let's say, and I'm not a jaded person or anything, just that I feel like I've pretty much seen it all. Anything, any type of story that could grab me. And I was so impressed that I got to the end of the first show of Breaking Bad, and I was like, yeah, I cannot not watch the next one. I just have to see the second one. And I was like, I kind of like, in a way that's just some dealer's giving me a dodgy drug, and I'm now hooked.
I had the same experience of Sons of Anarchy, and I was still renting DVDs from the video shop back then.
Great. Good for you.
This is before streaming was. I think streaming was only just starting to take off, and they would rent you like a box set, like The Season, you know. I don't know if you've seen Sons of Anarchy, but it's great writing, really good writing.
It's got Hell's Angels in it and all that.
Yeah, it's written by Kurt Sutter, who started off as an actor, but then got a job on what I think is the best police drama of all time. He got a job as a writer on The Shield.
Oh yeah,
and by the second or third season, he was the head writer. And he knew exactly how to land the end of each episode, so that, oh God, I've got to watch another one. And that's what you were describing happened to me with Sons of Anarchy. I got this box set out. I watched the first one. Before I knew it, was 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, "Can I stay up for one more? I really want to know what happens." You know, that's a sign of great writing, I think.
So. Oh, it really is. It really, really is. And you know that is so important. Absolutely. Funny enough, I'm doing a upcoming film. I don't want to jump ahead of your possible questions, but called Damage, which involves a gang of Hell's Angels after a family going across an RV in America, and which is from Tom Boyle, the writer of The Ledge, very, very talented writer, and someone I'm working with on upcoming films, working with producer Fred Hedman, who was the producer on that, and some of the same team, and so that's an upcoming film. So we were talking about Sons of Anarchy.
Sounds like a film.
I watch the box set now, haven't I? You know, I'm always afraid. I noticed someone says to me like, "Oh, I'm doing a climbing movie or whatever. Oh, you should watch this other climbing movie." And actually,
watch it when you've made the film.
I can't. And I think I don't want something to sit there, and I don't even realize. And then I get on set and I start doing something the way that was done. I just don't want to do that. I never want to be influenced like that.
I think based on the pitch that you just made for Damage, I think it's unlikely, because this is more about it's the inner workings of how a gang like that functions, and the internal politics, and the people always trying to double cross each other, and it's much more in an internal show about how that world operates, rather than the damage that they do to other people and their perspective, although that's all in there as well. This is a thriller. This is we've got to deliver on the the excitement, the situation, the threat of the situation. So it's totally different. But I like the sound of it. I hear it's great. I want to move on to casting now. So that's our quick questions done. And your film that you just talked about, Damage, that sounds like something you should try and get a cameo from Michael Berryman to be in.
Weird. I thought about it. It's odd you should mention Michael Berryman. These things happen
still
to me.
Around.
Yeah, these things happened to me day before yesterday. I was thinking about Michael Berryman. How random is that? And then you should mention it a couple of days later. Yeah, I tell you why. Because I was also thinking about The Hills Have Eyes, because The Escape is nothing like, and it was called The Canyon. It's nothing like The Hills Have Eyes. But The Hills Have Eyes was a film that I saw, growing up, as a young kid. I probably shouldn't have seen it at the age I saw it, along with Romero's Dawn of the Dead, Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. The Hills Have Eyes was, I think it was an incredible film, and I was just the whole setting of it, and the fact that it was in this sort of desert location. It's one of the reasons. My brother and I, were also put the dead in a desert location, and I've personally been interested in taking people to these dusty locations and having the drama play out there. Escape has a little hint of The Hills of Eyes. For people who know The Hills of Eyes, they'll see it, but of course, no one else needs to know. But Michael Berryman, really interesting looking guy, right? As well.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to do much with him when you put him on the screen. And I, by the way, I have also heard that he's a really nice bloke to work with.
Yeah, I heard so too. Yeah, so that funny. Now you see these things. I find if they come in threes now, if someone else mentions Michael Berryman in a couple of days' time, I'm going to have to get something sorted. Because I find these sort of signs. I think you've got to be open to these things, and sometimes these things come at you. I find that with actors, talking of casting, and I've always got, I'm always looking for actors. That doesn't mean I can cast everyone, and nor will I be able to. But I'm always looking for good actors, always looking for people, and I note them down. And I actually sometimes I've got this list. I literally write a name down. It's this random list of people. It might be someone completely unknown. It might be someone known. And then when parts come up, I suddenly go, oh yeah, that's like a Rolodex, and I check out. Oh yeah, I wanted to work with that person. That person will fit that. And then you do that. Kind of, casting is so random,
Yeah, because I mean, you've worked with a few members of the Outcast Creative, David Wayman being one of them.
Oh yeah, great. He's great.
Yeah, he's a really good friend of mine. I think he's a very talented actor. Probably he's a bit underused, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
We talked about Scott Hillier earlier, who's another great actor who's got a great face, and in the right role, he doesn't need to do much. And I think it's great that you're kind of seeking out and casting not people that are complete unknowns who don't have any experience, but actors that are jobbing actors that you can see are working hard and are prepared to put the graft in.
Totally. And talking of working hard, with both of those guys, love those guys. I was working with Scott on Friday, and he's a great guy, really talented. And as you say, straight away, what he does and the way he looks, is just there. And I see that in the shots in my editing. And with David, who was great on The Ledge, and which is already released, of course, and that's sort of sold, all around the world, sold in every country in the world. Actually, I think it's kind of a rare thing to do. Super sales job that Fred Hedman at GFM Films did. But David Wayman, they're talking of the random casting. I met David down in Cannes at the Cannes Film Festival, where I met a few actors that I want to work with, and I thought he's a nice guy. We had a few too many beers, I believe, and had a good
yeah, right.
About everything as you do at the Putty Majestic down in Cannes, and great place to network. They say the queue for the toilet in the Putty Majestic is one of the best networking places ever. That's weird. Because it's this little corridor, and you always chat with people in it. It's the best networking place. Anyway, and he was an actor I wanted to work with, and I thought he's a good guy, he's talented. I always check their show reel out, check it out. Actually, he's good. And then when The Ledge came up, and we were casting. We were with a casting director, and getting some great talent involved. And then David Wayman changed his profile picture on Facebook, and of course we're friends on Facebook. And then there was him on a rock climbing, and I was like, hang on. And I messaged him and said, do you climb then? He said, yeah, I climb. He sent me a load of pictures of him. And I said to Fred, producer, said, we've got to get him in. Come on, he's a great actor. He's of the right age. Let's just forget these other ones we're looking at for that part. Let's get him in. And it was great. And he was amazing. He actually is climbing those rocks for real. That's the thing about The Ledge. There is real climbing in it. I mean, and David is a real climber, and he was like hanging on at one point with one arm genuinely up high, crazy.
Well, I'll come back to some of your films in a bit, but just sticking with casting, because I know actors that are watching, and we do get quite a few on the channel, will be keen to hear this. So you mentioned a casting director. Do you use a casting director for every film? Is it always the same one?
Great question. No is the answer. I don't use a casting director for every film, but I do use casting directors, and they can be great. They have access to people you may never have thought of, and they and it is really, really handy. And on Dark Game, which is coming up, we had a casting director for some parts, and we found our sort of villain, which was an absolute gem, Andrew P. Stephen, who is going to be launched to the world later this year when Dark Game comes out. And what a performance he is in Dark Game. That came via Jane Frisbee, I believe, casting director. And we used a casting director for most of the cast on The Ledge, Lucy Hellier, I believe. And but with Escape, for example, with my indie films, I tend to want to know I want to meet the actors. I want to know them. I want to know that I can find out if they're talented by looking at a show reel, but I can't really find out if they're a decent person, a person I want to spend time in my life with, because, film shoots are quite intense. I want to be able to get on with people and feel they have a good, positive energy. If you go for a meeting with someone, I think, and they might be lovely to you, and then a waiter comes along and they're like, or they're rude to them or something like that. It sounds like an awful thing, but I think it's a positive thing. I'm trying to find all the time, really good people I think are nice and are generous and are kind to other people, as well as being really, really talented. Because when you go and do a movie, I want to be with, life's too short to surround yourself with arseholes or people with egos. Does that sound bad? So I
couldn't agree more with everything you've said there, because for me, casting is all about minimization of risk. So the first thing is, are they talented? Obviously,
Yeah.
which puts them in the yes pile.
Yes.
And then after that, it's okay, they can play the role. Now it's minimization of risk. And one of the things that, for example, I always tell actors, if you go to a casting, never be rude to the assistant.
That's absolutely. Or the person
Never be rude to the
you
person
know.
who's showing you in, who's coming out to tell you information. Never be impatient. Don't ask them to hurry up. All of that energy that you project is all read and fed back to the casting director and the director.
Completely right. And you're absolutely right about that, Lance. It's so, so important. So for me, and I, you know, there are, so I keep an eye on people. You know, I'm always looking for, and I look at a lot of people's show. They won't know I've looked. They won't know I've checked. Of course. And I'm looking all the time. And I also look at, sometimes I might check. For example, I think social media is really important for two reasons. You know, one, producers generally want to find people with Instagram followings. You know, that's the questionable side, which is I find frustrating because people who are less talented can move further ahead.
Yeah.
So there is that, but it is important. Sadly, the other thing is that I find if even if I meet someone I think they're nice, or I see their showreel I think they're nice, if I go onto their social media and they're just bloody angry about the world and they're firing all this stuff about this, that, and the other, and I'm thinking, do I want to bring this person and fly them to a desert island and they're like angry? I think you've got to be careful what you put on social media.
I've said that to 3 or 4 actors that I've met, and I know some of them you've met. Don't want to say who. And I have said, you do realize that like every post you put out on your Facebook is you moaning about something. You never put out anything positive, and you're projecting an image of how you're going to behave on set.
Yeah,
because if that's how you are on a daily basis, okay, you might be saying Facebook is where I vent, but at the same time, it's your public perception image. And that's all people have got to go on if they don't know you. And if they don't know you, they're going to put you in that's a risk. So now you've gone in a different pile.
Yeah, the other, you're absolutely right. It really is. Also, I think the weird thing is there is a certain thing even outside of filmmaking or acting or whatever. If you and we can all do it because we've all got things. You know, the world is a tough place, and it doesn't matter if you're, you know, you're an actor, you're a road sweeper, or you're the CEO of a company. It is tough, and we have all these things come at us, you know, and everything. And I think if we go down the road of being negative and seeing everything as negative, then I do think it kind of comes back at us anyway. And that's a sort of, perhaps that social media thing is as a microcosm of that, you know, is an example of how that works in reality. And it really does. And also there are some people, I think for some reason, and whether it's an unfair thing with human nature, is that people see someone doing really well as well. And sometimes they want to put them down. And actually, that doesn't ever work in their favor. It always works out of their favor. You know, support. There are some actors who are very lovely and supporting to other actors. And that is a wonderful thing to see. And I think that's something that is really important because you want people like that who are going to be supportive of their fellow actors.
You want an actor who gives it to a scene, not just takes from it. I find, and an actor who's a giving actor to another actor in the scene, it always works for a better.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of stories about people who are not giving like that, or when it comes to do weird stuff like, when it comes to their close up, they close their eyes and give them no emotion, and they're trying to make their take better than the other. You go, woo, you know. At some point, I wasn't aware of all these things that were going on out there.
Yeah,
and, it's a funny old game, you know. But I've been very lucky because so to answer your question properly, I sometimes let's say 30% of my films so far. We use a casting director, maybe 35%, if that's roughly how we're looking at it. But a lot of my films are the indie movies that I can then, you know, which I like doing because there might be lower budgets, the indie movies, but I get to have a little bit more control over the world. That's not from an egotistical point of view, just having more choice and having things the way I want them to be. You know, for example, you know, working with Escape, you know, we were going to literally a desert island, you know, Canary Islands, Fuerteventura, and I wanted to go with a small group of people that I could really get on well with, you know, and we had a fantastic cast and crew, you know, Sarah Marks, who's brilliant and is, you know, just a really, really talented and decent, human being. Louis James, the same, Sophie Rankin, and Ksenia Islamova. They're all wonderful people. They're all really nice. Sean Cronin, who plays a horrific villain, and Glenn Salvage, villains, but they're actually really sweet, nice people in reality. At least that's my experience. And
so James Allen says he's looking forward to seeing that one. I'm assuming he means Escape. Me too.
I think so. Yeah, James is a great guy, and James is someone. Again, look, James is a good guy. He puts out good energy. He's very talented as a writer. He's someone on my radar as well. Funny enough, who I think in the future there's something for us. We very nearly did something on a TV series way back.
Oh, well, hopefully I can write something for you at some point, Howard.
Yeah, that would be lovely too, Lance. And
we'll have to.
You're a very, very talented chap too.
Well,
so,
yeah.
I'm always looking for people, but at the same time, sometimes schedules get full up, and then it's like a lot of scripts coming. I think every single day, for example, my phone goes, and I will have someone in the morning. I'll have messages from a writer, an actor, someone trying to get their script looked at. It's like it gets a bit sort of, at some point you go, oh, it's kind of a bit overwhelming. You want to read everyone's script. You want to look at everyone's show reel. You want to do it. And then at some point I think, if I did that, I literally wouldn't be able to make movies. Wouldn't have the time. It's a funny business. But to the casting thing, so yes, for me, I really like to have met the actor and to get a sense of them. And here's the other thing where people have to be careful. We all talk, but we all talk. Thank you, Angela.
Yeah, appreciate that, Angela. Do please subscribe to the channel as well.
Support. She's got more of my films than I've got. She's a great supporter of indie films and talents. So look, I always find that we talk behind each other's backs. I don't mean in a bad way. So if I'm going to hire an actor, generally speaking, I will probably message someone who's worked with that actor. Yeah, and or that crew member, and I go, how were they? Because you kind of need to know how they were under pressure. And then at that point, you might anonymously share a story that goes, do you know what? He or she was actually a bit of a nightmare in the end, because this happened and they had this and this happened. So you've really got to be careful. I don't want to make people...
No, listen, that all makes complete sense. And it's a very, very small industry. And I've had my bad experiences in it, as you well know. It got back to me that two of the individuals that were responsible for that bad experience were basically rubbishing my name as a director to cover up what they had done. So they were trying to make out that no, the film didn't happen because Lance was a pain in the arse and whatever. Just a whole load of nonsense. Nothing to
it's
do
so
with
frustrating. Those things are frustrating.
Well, it's there's
not much you can do.
No, not really. And people who know me well will know I'm an extremely hardworking, diligent, and professional person. So,
well, I've only heard good things. So that's
bless you. That's likewise. I have to say, actually, and a lot of that. In fact, our friendship, I can name the person responsible for that, and that would be Angela Dixon. And here she is.
Angela Dixon from Never Let Go.
I need to get her to sign this disc, actually.
Oh, dude, she'd love to sign that disc. The Angela, talking to networking with acting, networking is very important. And Angela is someone like David Wayman. I think I'd met Angela the year before down in Cannes, down at the Cannes Film Festival, and we were on a little party on a boat, and we had it. She came on. She was very nice. I saw her show reels. I showed her a trailer of The Dead at the time. We stayed in touch. We had a nice meeting, had a cup of tea at some point at lunch or whatever. No, we didn't work together. 5 years later, when Never Let Go, which we ended up shooting in Morocco, Spain, as a little bit set in America, a kidnap story. And, I needed a person for that role suddenly. And it was like, who is that person? The Rolodex of actors that I know goes in my head, which it does for every part. And it was like, boom, it's Angela Dixon. She's got all the qualities I want for this part. And, and that was a great bit of synergy. So, and then that's it. She did the movie. She's fantastic. And now we got on really well, which is great. We had similar ethos for respect of people. And, also we were both hugely into exercise. When we were
she's a very physically physically fit. I mean, I don't think I know someone who's quite got so much muscle and bones sinewed together.
I think it's a good thing to have for film. Not everyone has to have that.
Well, I mean, the film that you put her in, it was certainly a requirement that the person should have been, athletic and not going to get out of breath easily, because you put her through the hoops in that one.
Yeah, completely. And she's very fit, physical. And that, man, I'm someone who's, I'm into fitness and into that kind of thing. And so it was really, really a great synergy. So now Angela and I have worked together. Well, she's in Escape now as well.
Oh, right.
She's actually playing Sarah, who is Carla, the main character, Sarah's mum. So I just realized the other day, it was someone, I think it was Tom Boyle, the writer of The Ledge, he said, she keeps having daughters who go missing. I'm like, yeah, didn't even think of that. What can you do? It's great. She's in Escape as well. I worked with her on four movies now. So these things come along, and you want good people around you, people you can trust. They'll turn up. They're going to give it their all. They're not going to cause a problem, and you get the job done. Because for me as a director, I'm all about getting it done. I'm a little bit. I like to move quite fast. I don't like to have a hell of a lot of chat. I like to get on set because sets are slow moving. I like to get on set and get a shot. I want to get a shot before people are ready. Galvanizes the situation. You've got to get something in the can. I can't stand these film sets, and I've been on them. Nothing's happening, nothing is happening. Hours are going by and everyone gets stagnant. And I think that energy, I like to keep that energy up, and you need to be physically fit to do that. I think to just keep going. So it's important to me.
No, I'm always like looking at my watch and like, how many shots can we get before lunch? And you've got a lit target in mind, and if possible, you always want to go over it. You want to get ahead.
Yeah,
because filmmaking is all about time.
Absolutely right. And if a situation you can't, because films are difficult and things. It doesn't matter if you're filming in a room or in the desert. You're going to have technical challenges. Things are going to. You've always got to find a way of keep moving. I would say to indie filmmakers, no matter what the situation, as you said earlier about that, if the tree falls down, you've just got to find something else. Don't stop. Find another way of doing the shot, even if it's a close-up. Just keep moving.
That does bring me on to my rather neatly segued next question, because you've worked with different scales of production, but certainly a lot of your early stuff, it was you and a very, very small crew. So I guess I was going to ask, what are the challenges and benefits to that? And I mean, you already said, which is always the first thing that pops into my head, the smaller the film, the smaller the crew, the more control you have. The bigger the animal, the more chance there are that various parts of the machine are not going to work properly. But that one aside, what did you find were the other benefits?
Yes, it's a really great question. I'm so glad you brought it up. So I have to say, the latest film, Escape, although I hope it doesn't look it, we have made with a small team again. It's one of my indies. I like working like that. I can't always do it, but I like having a small team, and I like to, camera operate myself and things. And the reason is it's fast moving. There's no doubt. We have a bigger crew. It is always slower moving. Doesn't matter what people tell you. You need someone to do that job. You need someone to do that job. You need someone to do that job. Yeah, of course you do. But they all need to eat. They all need to go to the loo. They all need to get on the road and get there. And if there's a delay, you're delaying. If you can't move or you can't get shots because your entire team are not there, you're very vulnerable to delay. Weirdly, I find it slows you down. But having said that, I've worked with some, The Ledge was a bigger crew, and we worked with a fantastic team, Red Production in Serbia. It's set in the Italian Dolomites, but we shot in Serbia. I think there were 64 crew members. Before we have an actor, there's 64 people. To me, that was a lot of people. I know for a big Hollywood movie, that's not a lot of people. That's a reason, kind of a small size crew. But for me, that was a hell of a lot of people to go up a mountain with.
I remember looking at the credits when it was going up for The Ledge, and I was thinking, oh, this seems like quite a lot of names for a Howard Ford film. There's a lot of people,
That was
a bigger catering budget for him.
Bigger catering budget, bigger everything budget. I mean, I was the director of The Ledge. I wasn't the producer. There were a number of producers, Fred Hedman, who's a great friend, and producer Kate Hedman, and also, Miloš from Red Production in Serbia. We had a great team, and the crew were fantastic. They were really, really awesome, and they were really, really on it. But it was just, and actually we're going to work with them again on another movie, and so that's it. I'm excited about that. But taking it to the extreme, the Lockdown Hauntings behind which see Tony Todd's head. I shouldn't be blocking Tony Todd's head. She'll get Jeffrey, his manager, onto me now. He's a lovely guy. And so, the Lockdown Hauntings I made, taking it to the extreme, was a movie I made in lockdown. And because we were in lockdown, we were stuck in our house. We were in our houses, much like we are now. And that film I made with no crew whatsoever. I mean, if I was at a house like Tiffany Annam Daniels, who was wonderful, one of the stars of it, if her mum was there or whatever, then I could have someone holding the boom, or Joseph Milson, who is this amazing actor, star of The Dead 2. His daughter Jessica Milson is in it, and brilliant. So we had someone who could understand and work as a crew member on those days. And Ksenia's friend Tamara, who became the co-producer of Escape. These are people who worked on those days, but generally 95%, 96% of the Lockdown Hauntings had no crew whatsoever, and that was made in lockdown. So that was the weird thing. Was I went from the Lockdown Hauntings to the Ledge, so I've gone from no crew to 64 crew. That was the next. I find, then I've gone back to a smaller crew for Escape, because I find the benefits are, if you surround yourself with people like Louis James is a great actor, plays the Charmer guy in Escape, who's the good-looking young chap who kind of like, who slipped something in the drink of these girls, and it's a kidnap story,
Right.
But he was great as an actor and great as a crew member. So all of a sudden we have people like that who when they're not actually acting, for example, quite happy and very qualified to work as a crew member. And those are the type of teams I do like to do things like that, because then I can assemble my merry band of people, and hopefully it is a merry band. You always keep your fingers crossed that it will be. And go off to some, place and just do it. Just get on with it. Just arrive, get the camera out, get the actor in the shot, and film it. It sounds kind of obvious, right? But
I'm with you on it. I can give you an example of exactly the same approach when we were putting together Pegasus Bridge, which of course was the film project that didn't happen. But one of the things when I was speaking to the actors who were potentially going to go to France for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they all had to have a period costume, which means correct boots and all the rest of it. So I said, look, you'll be on call every day. And if you don't have dialogue, but if I need a paratrooper gun position 100 meters away from the scene that I'm shooting with 2 guys in the right kit manning that gun, that's going to be you.
Yeah,
and you'll be on set getting paid for that day. And I could see him look at me going, "Oh, I'm not an extra." And I said, "It's not about whether you're an extra or not. It's about me using every resource that I have, and I don't have the budget to costume 100 guys. Yes, we'll get some reenactors down for the big days and all that kind of thing. But I said, but if I've got a day and I need some guys running in the right clobber back in the background, and you're not in that shot in the foreground, that's going to be you in the background."
Yeah. Yeah.
So in the end, they got it.
That's great, Lance. I think that is absolutely the way to get it done. And to be honest, that's the other reason why. There could be people out here watching that or listening to this, and hopefully there are, and that might say, "Oh, but that's not how it should be done." No, I mean, look, sometimes the world isn't ideal, but actually, those things on a lower budget movie, I think it's the fun stuff. I think in some ways it is the fun stuff. So if you've got people who are prepared to muck in and go, "Yeah, we need a hand to pick this up. We don't have another person. Yeah, I'll be that hand, or I'll do this, or I'll hold the boom while I'm not acting." And it's not that I expect everyone to do that. It's just that those people are the people I want to take with me to the island or to some far.
Yeah.
Those are the people who are going to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the people who are not going to go are the people who have an issue with certain things like that. And that's not to say I won't cast them, I won't work with them. I still would, because they're probably great, and their job is an actor, and that's what they should be. They shouldn't be required to do these other things. But it's great when people are up for that. And it just kind of helps the whole process to happen if people are prepared to muck in. And a lot of the people I've worked with are great like that. You know, again, I say Sarah Marks is just someone who's a great actor, doesn't take any of my energy whatsoever. There's zero energy usage for me, but I don't. It doesn't require any energy. But when she knows her lines, and when the part is there, when the camera rolls, out they come, and actually they're quite magical. Those are the type of people, that I want to work with. I've been very lucky to meet and learn from other people who these people are as well. You reference them,
Sure.
Someone said, like Russell Shaw, who's a great actor I've worked with, and he was
Russell. Yeah, he's fantastic talent.
He's fantastic talent and a really nice guy too. And he recommended Sarah initially as well, and because he'd worked with her on which is, I believe, a Mark Zamet film. Look, I'm excited about that. See that. Hope that's turns out great. And and these are people that you can reference from other people that they're good, and you can understand why they're getting a lot of credits, or they're starting to be seen in a lot of things. And then if you can work with these people, and they do their bit, and they're happy to muck in other areas, and they don't take too much of your energy, because you know what it's like, Lance. You've got people don't understand. You get on set and they ask you this and they ask you that. You're carrying 1,000 things in your head, and just to make up the day, and so you kind of want to have people who are not going to expect too much from you.
Well, you want people that are going to bring their A game to set, really, and that are prepared. And I mean, it is fluid, and people do need to ask you things, but at the same time, you want people that are ready to go. So I get exactly where you're coming from. I mean, sticking with I want to make sure we get these things in, because we haven't got too much time left. Sticking with your recent productions. So you've got Escape coming out. You've got a couple of others coming out as well, I think.
Yes,
awaiting distribution.
Exactly. So I mean, Escape that'll be out sort of the latter part of the year, hopefully sort of August, September time, possibly into October, but around that time. Dark Game, I'm very excited about Dark Game, which is a producer friend, Tom George, for Happy Hour Productions, who brought me onto the project as a director. He's a really great guy, fabulously creative producer, put a great team together. Now, Dark Game is starring Ed Westwick, fantastic actor, who's playing Ben, a detective. Yeah, there he is, a detective who is trying to bring down the presenter. There you are, see the masked presenter, who is actually kidnapping people and forcing them to play a game of death online. So you can, you can log in, and you can, much like we're chatting, you can, take bets on it and the winner, and choose the way these people are killed. It's quite a grim, dark subject matter, hence the name Dark Game. But it was a really brilliant script. I think Niall Johnson was the writer, one of the writers, and Tom did a great job of developing that. And we just had a great cast. All the whole cast and crew were fantastic. And I think it's going to be, it's going to be quite an intense movie. And that I don't have a release date to give you yet, but that is coming out the second half of this year. So Dark Game, I think, is going to be. It's going to be hard to not notice that one. It's got some quite extreme stuff in it.
Sounds like that might be an 18.
I was thinking so. Yeah, we were talking about this the other day, and as much as it is kind of handy to get a 15 sometimes, because it does broaden the amount of people who can see the film. Yes, it's quite intense. Look, it's not a horror, but there are absolutely, horrific things that go on. It's actually a taut, tense thriller, really sharply written, and so we were so lucky with the cast on that. And actually, a couple of people now I've poached from Dark Game into Escape. So we got Mark Danbury, Anthony, who was who's the lead cop in it, is also in Escape now as well. So yes. Escape is about 10 kidnapped. There's basically 10 kidnapped women who are for sex trafficking purposes. I make pleasant films, don't I? And you got to grab people in some way. Headed by Sean Cronin, who has a gang of lowlifes, and who are basically going to ship these 10 girls in a container to an overseas buyer, a mystery buyer, to be sold. And without spoiling much, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but basically these girls are not going to take it lying down, let's put it that way. So it is about them rising up and hatching an escape plan. And
I'm looking forward to this one. One of the things I've noticed with the projects you pick, and I think it's a really good thing, is that you pick something that it's very clearly defined what it is. It's a clearly defined genre. There's a package there. A distributor can look at it and go, I know how to market that film. And I don't think I'm wrong in saying that those are probably very intentional choices on your part. Is that
they
fair?
really are, Lance, and I'm so glad you bring this up.
I actually think it's a fantastic skill set, and one that I've only learned more recently to my cost, sadly. But
it is difficult. But here's the thing. If your films don't make money, you don't get to make them for very long.
No, that's right.
That is the nub of it. So I think back to what I said earlier about the design of the film, and also in my choice of whether I come onto a film, because I do get sent a lot of scripts, and it's not just whether I like it. Me liking it is one matter. Will this sell? Is this something, as you quite like, of Angela, can't wait to see Sean Cronin in Escape. Sean Cronin.
Yeah, me too, Angela.
You won't miss him. He's fabulous and great fun to work with. Sean's amazing. And it's just having that design of it. What is the nub of it? When someone tells someone else what the film's going to be about, not me telling you what the film's going to be about. When someone else tells someone, can they boil it down to the essence of something that grips you? Because if you don't have a mega famous actor in it, because when you pre-sell a movie, generally you need to pre-sell it off a big name. So if you don't have a huge name, what other components of parts of the film? Is this something that people are going to go, yeah, I really want to see that? So for me, that is really, really important to have something that grabs people, And I guess that's why in the end, people can say, look, I have made family-friendly movies. I made Adventure Boys. It's a family-friendly movie, and it's got a lot of my heart in it. It's got my own 2 sons in it. And I love that movie. It's a low-budget movie. But, a lot of people say, well, you make these very intense thrillers or horrors, why are you making these horrible films? You don't seem like a horrible guy. And I'm like, yeah, well, thank you. But I know it's got to sell. There are people who want to sit down of an evening, and I think they want to be taken to the edge. Not all the time. I don't think I'd be great at comedy, although Adventure Boys has some comedy in, which I enjoy and others did enjoy. But I need to go with what I'm kind of known for in a funny old way. And I'm known, Mainline Ron was right back then a drug running thriller. I sort of started off down that road, and outside of the commercials, and I've made cheesy Nescafe coffee commercials. I've done all that stuff and all the happy stuff in that world. I kind of want to do the opposite world and take people on a journey to the edge, thrill them, shock them, perhaps outrage them in some respects. But people, why do we like roller coasters? Why is it we drive down the road, and if there's an accident, you try and stop your head turning to the right? But my head does it. Or whatever side the accident is on. I don't really want to see someone mashed up. I really don't, and I feel for them. But we have a morbid curiosity within us, and people, I think we should take people on the roller coaster. You don't go on a roller coaster because it goes gently, swaying this way and that way. You go on it because it takes you down that thing, and then it takes you up, and oh my God, I didn't expect that corner. I think that's what we should do as filmmakers. That's at least, I believe, my role. I want the ledge. You see,
I'd put it up because it's a prime example of exactly what you're talking about. And it's like, okay, do I want to watch this film? Well, actually, I want to find out whether the girl makes it to the top or falls.
She's the girl who's up, a witness to a murder. She's got the evidence on her camcorder. She goes up a mountain. The guys chase her up a mountain.
I thought the concept for the film was really, really, really strong, and pretty tight script, really well filmed. I really did like it. I thought it was one of your best.
Thank you, bless you. And Tom Boyle, the writer, has got, and I'm in contact with him about a couple of projects at the moment that are exciting things. And actually, we learn our own lessons from it. So we learn to boil down it to the nub of that. Distributors, and again, this is an example of a movie. It's sold in every single country in the world. Everyone has picked this movie up. I don't think I've had a film that's sold everywhere. There's normally at least 5 or 10 territories left to sell, and maybe they don't sell. GFM Films, who are selling the movie. Fred Hedman is the F of GFM Films, who I'm working with a lot. A great friend and a great producer too. Great sales team. Now they took that to distributors, and and it's like that has got the distributors can understand it straight away. That it is a mountain climbing movie. It is a thriller. It's got some horrible stuff in it. People are gonna want to watch it. Not everyone, but enough people are gonna want to watch that. And that's the way it turned out. It's it's done really, really well. Again, there are always things I wish I could have. I'm my own worst critic. There are things I wish I could have done.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I'm the same with my own film. People say, "What would you give it out of 10 on IMDb?" And I said probably 6 and maybe 6.5. There's some scenes in it that exactly how I imagine them, and then there's a whole load of other stuff that's nothing like I wanted it to be. But I had to complete it.
Filmmaking is so much harder. It is so much harder than anyone who hasn't made a film could ever realize.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. If you're making a film and it's about an apple, it's just about an apple in a room, you still gotta light the apple, you still gotta film it, you still gotta edit it, you still gotta put music to it, you still gotta get a location in which to shoot it and the equipment and the things and then deliver the film for distribution, which is a whole other world that a lot of independent filmmakers don't realize. You just think you finish the film and that's it. There's a whole load of other stuff you need to do to get
before I ask my final question, I'll just ask you this, which will lead into it, and I'm sure some of the filmmakers watching will want to know, and I know there's a couple of them in the chat right now. What's the smallest budget you've worked with to produce a feature film, and what's the largest, so we kind of know the spectrum?
So the largest, the Ledge was $1.7 something million. So it's still a very low budget movie, but that is a much larger budget movie. I think Mainline Ron, when we shot it, I believe the budget all way back then was £42,000, shot on Super 16. So there's your budget range in a way. But to be honest with you, when I did Adventure Boys, which I just went out and I did that because I wanted, I had 2 boys and they were, we used to go and do adventure stuff, and then they started looking at devices and just wanting to be on YouTube. And don't get me wrong, I love YouTube, but they were just wanting to look at it all day. And I was like, right, I make this movie to get them off devices. Now that movie, I didn't have a budget. I just, I had a bit of cash in my pocket, and I was, willing to pay actors a certain amount of money per day. Not a lot of money, but everyone got paid. Even my boys got paid. But it was just made on a tiny, tiny budget. And I that film was made on less than 25 grand, £25,000. And I think with post-production, it then, cost a little chunk more because you've got
the hidden cost.
I work with a fantastic composer, Imran Ahmed, who's it's been great. And we're working together on Escape next. And he worked on Dark Game 2. And, so I've got some great, and Joe Vince, my sound, I've got great people who work with me in post as well. Real talent. So finding those teams is one thing. But so the budget ranges are that, really, I've done TV commercials. I've done TV commercials where I've shot for one day and it's bigger budget than a movie. And I don't mind sharing with you, I've been paid a heck of a lot more for one day working on an advert.
that doesn't surprise me. I'm well aware of the price difference there. So, that kind of leads me into my last question, because I know you're pushed for time.
That's all right. That's all right. Grab another one. Sure.
Yeah, which is this. Filmmakers like us, we all kind of dream of getting to that stage where, and I use an example, the director who made Boogie Nights, Paul Thomas Anderson, right?
I think it's an amazing movie too.
Boogie Nights was a huge hit for him, and did very well.
Yeah.
compared to its budget, and also critically very well. So he said his next film was Magnolia, which, if you've seen that film, that's not a typically commercial film. It's got a very...
No, I really liked it.
I loved it. I saw it at the cinema, and I absolutely loved it.
Was amazing in that film, wasn't he?
Yeah. And that's a prime example of a movie that if you see it at the cinema, it's a completely different experience.
I saw that in the cinema too.
Everybody I know that didn't enjoy it didn't see it at the cinema.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But he said, I decided to make Magnolia as my second film because the studio turned around and said, "What do you want to do next?" And I knew if I didn't make Magnolia now, they would never let me make it.
Yeah.
So I played that card early, and I made the film I wanted to make. So I guess if you ever got into that position where suddenly a studio turns around and says, "Okay, Howard, so we're prepared to stump up a pretty hefty budget for you. What's the big movie you want to make for us? What do you think you would go for? Do you have a project waiting in the wings, or maybe you kind of have, well, I've always wanted to do my Five Guys on a Mission World War II movie, or do you have? Is there something there that you want to do?"
Yeah, well, there are various things I want to do. I have to say, I would really like to do, not that I've ever, when I set out to make films, I never even thought of it as a career. I never even thought of it as a thing I could make money from or whatever. I just wanted to do it and tell stories that grab people, no matter what the budget was. But I would very much like to have a crack at doing like a $100 million plus. Who wouldn't? And it's not just about the money, but I would like to have a crack at doing something like that. But I'll always want to go back to my little indie movies as well. Here's something that I have to say I'm fascinated with. I do have, my personal life. I'm very interested in things in. I don't watch a lot of science fiction, but I'm really interested in the vastness of the universe and planets and the scale of things. So when you look at the detail of those numbers, it's just incredible what's out there. So I would, at one point, like it's nothing like the body of films that I've made. I would like to do something that is something to do with the universe, something to do with far-flung galaxies, but not in the way that we've seen before.
I think you're talking something more scientific based potentially than space opera.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to do something like that. I always remember that little thing. Was it the movie? Well, I think it was Contact. Let me just check. I might be wrong.
Yeah, that's with Jodie Foster. I actually really like that film.
I really like that film, and there was something about, and again, there's the image. I'm sure one of the posters is there. You're quick enough to pull it up, I reckon. But
I'll have a quick look.
No pressure.
I'll have a quick look.
Isn't it got it's got those huge telescopes, isn't it? There, she's
there.
It's stuck in my mind. So it's got those huge telescopes, and again, I think I've always been interested in the small person in the big landscape. So if you go to The Dead, something my brother and I were keen on, and I think it's because I love Sergio Leone, the westerns. They often had a small person in a big landscape. So I've always been interested in that. There we are. And so that's one of the things. Yeah. So, and I'm always and now how much bigger can it get that we are so tiny? When you look at it, we are so tiny when you look at the statistics, of our galaxy, without going into the whole geeky detail of it all. But, I think that sort of thing appealed to me. Now that image there of like, they're just there I think it was quite a dusty location again. I'm obsessed with that.
It's one of the main telescope stations in the States, I think.
Yeah, and it's that tiny thing, that tiny bit of detail, something that then happens, and there's something huge, and there's something greater, and there's something bigger out there that I can then take people to. I don't even know if I'm making any sense, but just something in the back of my mind is like, if I had all the money in the world, that's
the shot I was actually.
That's the shot, man. You've got it. You're well done. That is the shot. Things like that I really like. The nub of it all. And I talk about the design of a film. And when you're making a movie, you have to have a look in mind. Be it a girl covered in blood in the desert, be it a woman on a rock face. For me, I have to have this image in my mind, this design, and there you go. That's the design. The nub of it there is a small human being is, and this is not the plot, by the way, because I can't remember exactly, but is that there they are, and there they are, a singular being with this little setup, in this landscape, and they've got this huge stuff that reaches far beyond them. And I think that stuff fascinates me. So I think if I had a huge budget, that would be kind of the road I'd want to go down. I don't have that script. I haven't seen it. I haven't got that idea. I haven't written it. But that's the gut feeling answer there. But I wanted to say before we have to close up is that
sure.
Just that I think a lot of us, a lot of indie filmmakers or anyone, it doesn't matter what you're doing, we're restricted by fear sometimes. And I've always found people say, how do you get these films done? How do you get so many? I just get up and I do it. I think you've just got to somehow get rid of that fear and go and do it, no matter what. And he who dares wins and all that sort of stuff. I think, we have to just go for it, follow those dreams. And I think I've always done that. I haven't always got to it hasn't been exactly what I wanted it to be, but I feel I'm just getting going. I've done 10 movies now, but I feel like I'm just getting going.
It certainly seems to me like you're just getting going. And I mean, in the short time I've known you, your output has been phenomenal. And I'm sure you've liked some of your films better than others, like all of us. As you say, we're very self-critical. We're very similar in that respect. But nevertheless, what I would say about you is that you're extremely consistent.
Thank you.
Long may that continue. I'd love to see what you could do if somebody gave you a ton of money, but I have a horrible feeling that we'd do another one of these and you'd come back on and say, God, Lance, working with that studio was a nightmare.
I might do, yeah. But in my pocket, so stuff full of cash.
There's so many TV shows at the minute that you can just tell when you watch them, and I'm not going to name them, but there's not one person steering the ship. There's a lot of infighting, and you can see it got pulled this way and it got pulled that way, and then they ended up with a mess that was.
I've already seen some of that. I've seen some of that firsthand as well. Look, for every one movie that gets made, there's another 10 or so that don't get made, and it's a tough old business. And and I know that when you're dealing with a lot of money, there's a lot more fear as well, because no one wants to lose face or lose investment, or their necks are on the line. And so the trouble is then, here's the thing: if you're as a filmmaker, you need one singular person's vision. If I hire someone to write a painting, to paint a painting, if I get them in a room and I go, right, I want you to do this painting. I want this painting to be really good. But then I come into the room and I go, hang on a second, don't put the brush there. Actually, I want the brush there. And I saw a dark line there. And in fact, I want to saw a color. And then I start micromanaging. I start to do this. And what about, I'm not sure about that paint you're using. And I don't, if I started to do that, having commissioned someone to paint a beautiful painting, I think I would not get a great result. And it's a pity that the film business doesn't see that, doesn't always recognize that. There are brilliant producers out there who are just obviously trying to nurture talent and let directors. Here's an example, all the way back to The Sixth Sense, right? I don't know if you read much about the making of The Sixth Sense.
I don't know that I've read about some of the making of the other films of that writer, but not that one in particular. I probably have seen the making of on the DVD. It was one of the first DVDs I owned, actually.
Well, let me mention one thing about it. I saw this thing now. The producers who we're working with M. Night Shyamalan, it's his first movie. He's got, I think it was $20 million or $25 million, which is a decent budget for a first movie.
$7 million of that on Bruce Willis's salary.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think it was well deserved in that case, because he did bring the numbers in, and it's about that. It's a mathematical decision at that point. But basically, the producers, I understand this is what happened, that he was just casually chatting on location on a location that's an expensive building, and he was talking with the DOP, and they were having to put a wider lens on, and he was like, I wish I could have had a longer lens. And had the camera further back. And the producers apparently overheard that conversation. And the next minute, they had the wall smashed down without even consulting, without even telling, the director. Whether this story is true, I'd love to know if someone knows this story. They had the wall smashed down. So smashed in, they repaired it later and they put the wall back up so he could have a longer lens. That's the kind of producer I want to work with. not the kind of producers that you can't have that many people. Oh, the budget, the time. No, smash the wall down because I want a longer lens. If I meet that person,
I would also like to meet that person if they exist.
And like Shyamalan did, and hey, we're talking about how great his film was. So,
I think the other producers may have killed him. That person may no longer be living.
No, it might not even be a true story, but I heard about that. I think it's even on the IMDb trivia or something. But
well, look, Howard, that's a great point to end on. Listen, first of all, I would love to have you back on here. So when you come out the other side of your next 5 or 6 projects, or even one of them,
live, I'd love to.
If you want to come on and talk about them, if you want to bring somebody from the team with you, totally up for it.
Some of the actors or something, that would be great.
I'm nearly at 2,000 subscribers now, and I've only been doing this since last summer. So it's creeping up, and I'm getting better and better guests all the time. Although it's not about the level of guest, I'm just interested in people that have got something interesting to say about the creative industry. And I think this has been, certainly from a point of view of people working behind the camera, this has probably been one of the most best and informative and sobering interviews I've done on the channel. And I think people are going to find it very, very interesting. There's already been some lovely comments in the chat. I think this might be one of your actresses.
Oh, Tiffany Hannum, she's brilliant. She's wonderful. In fact, I was working with her just on Friday. And Peter Dobson, wonderful editor of the Lockdown Hauntings. Yeah, Tiffany, I was working with her on Friday. She's a brilliant actress. Just gets on with it. Another person, highly talented. Just gets on with it. Just gets there and
and I mean the thing is, Tiffany, you know what's going to happen now is that, and because I get asked about, everybody knows I know everybody, and I know loads of actors, and also people know that I put actors forward for stuff all the time who I just think are decent people and hardworking and talented.
You've done that.
Have to be involved in the project.
A few people to me, you know.
I have. I've sent several people to you. I've flagged up a few people. I know I mentioned Katrina Durden. You should definitely cast her in something as soon as you can. I think she's phenomenal. But I mean, so Tiffany, for just to sort of pick up on her before we leave, you're now going to have somebody else who's going to say, when somebody says to me, I need quite a blonde, athletic girl, sort of playing age, 20 to 28. Lance, do you know anybody? Funnily enough, I was talking to the director the other day, and he's just mentioned he's worked with this wonderful girl. Trust me, that conversation's going to happen.
That's the great stuff. I love it. It's that pay it forward thing, Lance. And you know, you've got your finger on the pulse in many respects. I can tell from chatting to you. So it makes it a pleasure for me, to back at you in that respect. But these are the things that go round, and this is the way it should be. I think, the good people should go forward. I wish it was more just like that. It's not always like that. It's sometimes, do they have a brilliant agent? Yeah. And then how do they get there? That's a whole other story.
I've met so many dubious characters in this industry, and people that really just are out for themselves. I've gone deliberately the other way, and I've always tried to do everything I can to help people, because I think the industry should be more like that, and it's not, sadly. In fact, it's going the other way further and further all the time. And I think certain people of a certain spiritual vernacular, certain types of people gravitate towards them, and I think that's why you get those kinds of people, Howard, and that's why I've been lucky to work with some really decent people, and by Jason Fleming, who's one of the best actors in the industry.
Brilliant.
He's literally on everything I do in some capacity. He's either producing or he's in it, or and he's just one of the kindest, nicest people you could ever work with. So
I'd love to work with him too. Look, you've hit on another point, Lance. This is a great thing, because it's not something you can talk about with everyone, because they don't necessarily understand it. But as you say, that spirituality, that believing in the human soul and goodness, and to be giving and to care about that. I think those people, and again, you can bring them to yourself. You can attract these things, and that's the way I want to go. And my gut feeling is, again, I can sit with someone, and my gut feeling is just telling me something's wrong. I should work with this, or I shouldn't work with this person. There's something going on that is sort of telling me this stuff, and I like to tune into that, and I hope it comes from a good place, and it allows you to surround yourself with decent people.
Good karma works.
Keith is bang on it there, Keith. Good karma, it really does work. Let's all, hey, don't want to get all
hippie on everyone, but let's put it out there a bit more.
Put the good stuff out. Give it a try. Thank people. I thank you for having me on the show. I thank people for listening. I thank everyone who watches, one of my movies or takes the time to comment or is in them. And I've been so lucky. I work hard, but I've been very, very lucky to be able to surround myself with very good people. And
All right, well, listen, we'll wrap it up there, guys. Listen, those people that have been watching, we've had some fantastic contributions in the chat. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so. This is it, Industry Interview 26 or 27. So there's a whole load of others on there. Probably 60% of them are from the film industry, and then the others are from various other things.
Keep up the amazing work, Lance. You are supporting right now in what you're doing. So you are giving. So, everyone subscribe, support Lance.
Well, I'm pulling away from production at the end of this year. I'll qualify that comment because people keep asking me what I mean. And I've said the play that I'm doing at the minute will be my last for a good while. I'm just going to qualify what I mean by that while I've got you on here, Howard, if you don't mind me taking up 2 minutes more of your time.
No, that's fine.
It's because I've been in this industry a long time. I've been trying to make it as a filmmaker and a theatre director since '97, more or less full time.
Wow.
And I've had some peaks and troughs, but I've hit a glass ceiling where I can't get any further without somebody else's help. I can't get to the next level where the budget is enough for me to pay everybody what they should be getting. And, where I'm working under decent conditions, where I don't have to ask people to do ridiculous things and constantly ask for favors. And I just feel like I've used up all the favors that I can. And I don't want to keep working at that level. I want to be able to pay people. I've done 15 plays in the theatre. I think 14 of them have had zero budget, pretty much. Wow. They're on profit share. And I just think as a guy at the age of 50, I don't want to be turning around and asking a group of actors to do a play for profit share again. Not that the play's not a good cause and it's worth doing. It's about the Postmaster scandal. Of course it's worth doing. So we are doing it one more time, but I don't want to keep doing that. And so, look, if someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, Lance, by the way, this person stuck this script in front of me, yours, I'd love to fund it. Do you want to make it?" Of course, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not giving up on the idea of directing. I'm just not going to actively chase money anymore. I'm not going to actively chase production because I've gone as far as I can, I feel.
Yeah.
So I'm going to focus on the YouTube channel, supporting other people like yourself, Howard, building up the channel. I'm going to publish all of my unpublished scripts. So all of my scripts are going to go on Amazon and work on my novels. And all of those things I can control over, and I don't need anybody else to say yes or no, or here's some money.
I can understand why you would do that.
Yeah, I just don't want to ask people to work for profit share or for free or anymore. And people listen, I've worked with some wonderful actors over the years that have done me so many favors. And the most frustrating thing for me in my career is that I'm not in a position to pay back those favors by saying, "Thank you so much for doing that film earlier. Here's a paid gig on my movie. Here's a paid role in my play." That's what I always wanted to
be. They know that you would do that, Lance. You're a decent.
No, I know that, and I know that they know that. I know that the good ones as well.
Don't carry too much of that on yourself.
No, I know, but you've got to understand. I have been doing this for a very long time, and I have done a lot of stuff, no budget and all the rest of it. And I just feel I've got to the stage where I don't want to have to ask people to do that anymore. If I get a fully funded project, someone comes up to me and they fund it, I'll be returning those favors. But if I keep actively chasing it and not succeeding it, and I get to the end of my life and I've spent all that time doing that, and I spent 3 years on one film that didn't happen.
Yeah, it's crazy how tough it is. I do understand. It's incredible.
And the personal cost to me was really heavy, relationships and very important things in my life. And so I have to kind of step back and focus on what I can accomplish and not spend so much energy on maybe what I can't. And so for me, that's why I've got to that stage, and I'm going to push back from actively I just want to be clear about that. Actively seeking production doesn't mean I wouldn't do it again, but it would have to be under the right circumstances. I don't want to ask people to work for free,
No, it is something I don't want to do either, and I wouldn't do now. Actually, I get people offering to work for free, And actually, I don't want to let them work for free. I think.
And I'm not saying that there aren't projects out there that have no budget, where there's a group of people getting together to do a play or a film, you know, because it's always a big debate in the acting forums.
Yeah, and also
everybody should always get paid.
Yeah,
everybody should always get paid. I will be the last person to take a paycheck on anything I'm doing.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are small projects, and everybody needs to start somewhere, and everybody wants to stay active. So you have to judge each of those by their merit. Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Are they somebody I want to give my time to? Is this person somebody who's going to give their time to me in return for something I'm doing? If it's a synergy relationship, then sure, those projects are worth doing. And I've done a lot of those, but you know, I just want to, if I do it again, I want to be able to say, thank you, here's a paid job.
Well, that's decent. That's because you're a decent guy, Lance. And here's the thing that, you know, when you do take your foot off the gas in that regard, actually, I'd like to think the right things will come back to you. So there's something that happens.
You're not the first person to say that.
Not pushing, you know, sometimes just don't, if you're whacking your head against your wall, and I'm not saying you're doing it that way because you're not, but it's obviously giving you some sort of pain, for want of a better expression, and frustration. And therefore, stop doing that. Take your foot off the gas, and sometimes things can turn in your favor. Stay open-minded about it, and you know you're someone who deserves to have the budget and to work. And you know you're talented and you're putting good stuff out there, and you're a decent guy, so it should come to you. But sometimes if we're pushing that way, it is better to do what you've described, but stay open to it, and it could then come to you. And I would say that it likely would. And so, you know, yeah, it's but whatever you're doing.
Well, when you're running 20th Century Fox, Howard, which may well be in a couple of years, do come back to me. And
I will, Lance.
I'm up for directing anything but a Die Hard sequel.
Fair enough. I wonder if you did even with that.
All right, joking aside, look, we carried on a little bit longer there, but thank you for indulging me, because I knew you would value that discussion.
Absolutely, you know, and I wish you the best with it. And I think, you know, the good things are out there. You know, they'll come to you. You've got the right attitude, and yeah.
So Howard, where can people see The Ledge, first of all?
The Ledge, yeah. So that's if you're in the UK. Well, if you're in anywhere, it's on Netflix. So
it's on Netflix, isn't it? Yeah, UK wide.
Yeah, it's on, I think, nearly all the streaming services. It's finished its cinema runs now, but it did 1,000 odd screens in Latin America. It's done a few things. It's done a few decent theatrical releases. But yeah, that's on your Netflix. It's on all of those kind of places. So that's out there. Escape, you know, bear with us. I'm in post-production on that. I'm editing, working away on that. We wrapped the final shoot with the main actors on just Friday last week. That was the UK section. And the rest is, you know, shot on the island. So that's coming later in the year. Dark Game, we don't have a release date, but we're going to have a release date very shortly. A question I get asked a lot. But you'll hear about that. That's going to be out there. And you know, follow Ed Westwick on Instagram. Add to his 9.6 million followers, I think he's got.
Has he? God, wow, that many. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there you go. He's great. And I love working with Ed. He's great. I miss his morning hugs on set. Good man hugger. And he's a great guy, great energy. And yeah, when we start promoting Dark Game, obviously, you know, having 9-point-something million followers on Instagram, that's going to be handy for us. You know, not only is it
no, absolutely
social media presence. So you'll hear about it. It'll be out there, and yeah, can't wait to share it. You know.
All right. Well, look, Howard, just reminds me to thank you sincerely for coming on and giving up your time on a Sunday afternoon. I know this time is precious with family and things. And also thanks everybody for watching, and those people that contributed with questions and comments. Do subscribe to the channel. Do follow the work of Howard. He is also on Twitter. You can keep up with what he's
I haven't posted for a while. Sorry about that, but I will.
If you're an actor who wants to work with Howard, don't bombard him with emails. Do have a good show reel.
Yes, probably a show reel. And actually on my website, on latitude-films.co.uk.
Which is actually down there already.
Yes, see the link to that. Ahead of the game. You're a good man.
Already there.
Yeah, I do look at
you can contact him there. But you know, make sure you've got your ducks in a row. Okay. And fantastic. Well, we look forward to having Howard back on the channel.
That'd be great. Thanks for having me.
For everybody watching, we'll see you all again soon. Have a fantastic weekend, and don't forget to tell the people that you care about that you love them. And I'll see you again real soon.
Brilliant.